Today's podcast is sponsored by Security Unlocked, a new podcast from Microsoft focusing on artificial intelligence and machine learning and security. Check out the links down in that delicious description below that I write every day.
So, the latest storm of the century of the week has dumped between 2 and 3 feet of snow in my front yard. If you were to look out to my neighborhood, you would notice one thing. We are the only house that has not been shoveled out yet. Our guy's truck broke down because of all of the weight and craziness of the storm. So actually, if you looked out right now, you'd see he just arrived. So he's actually doing it right now, which is good because it's trash day. But here's why this is bad. Last night we're watching TV and my phone rings. It's one of my neighbors, the one we're kind of friends, closest with or whatever. Mm-hmm. And he's being really cryptic. It was weird. He said something about a hospital. And then he goes, "Can you get here right now?" And I'm like, "What?" He goes, "Can you come here right now?" And I'm like, "Sure." And I'm thinking he means his house, And I'm like, what's wrong? And he goes, "I can get you the vaccine, but you have to come to the hospital right now." And I'm like, "I can't leave my house. We're not plowed out." And he's like, "All right, sorry, I tried." I'm like, "No, I appreciate it." So he's in school for nursing.
Oh, I see.
Works at a hospital. Well, I don't know what he's doing, interning or whatever he's doing. Mm-hmm. And sometimes they have whatever.
Yeah, no, they have it expires.
Could have gotten it last night, Brad.
What?
Could have gotten it last night.
Yeah, you could have been at.
Yep.
Well, I guess you got to wait like 2 weeks actually after, because you have to get poked, and then it's gonna manifest.
I'll never know,
as the
Brad.
raw
I don't
word.
know. See, I this is all speculation now. I don't know.
The best tweet I have seen about this whole vaccine thing is like, who called it vaccination and not jab creation?
Oh boy.
It was like, that's
that joke 101.
That's right up there with the best of them. Like, that's anyways. Paul, we talk 24 hours apart, and it is incredible what sometimes transpires between us saying, "All right, we'll talk tomorrow," and then actually talking tomorrow. Sony did some PlayStation sales. The record revenue of like 4.5 million PlayStations, 8 billion.
Record revenue was that for PlayStation or for Sony?
No, well, I only focused on the PlayStation stuff. So they actually had 8 billion in gaming, 8.5 or something like that. Billion in gaming revenue, which compares to the Xbox, which was 5 billion. They did 4.5 million consoles sold, but we don't know what Microsoft did, but we can assume that it was less than 4.5 million.
I think we could assume it's about half, honestly.
They already admitted that they started manufacturing them later, so somewhere less than that. I got to pull up the number. I think the other direct comparable, because they always make these things hard, is that Sony said they had 114 million monthly active users on the PlayStation Network, which compares to 100 million on Xbox. So
now, so what does that mean? I mean, I don't know how required PSN is compared to Xbox Live, but I don't remember where I saw this figure, but just the other day I saw a number that some analyst firm, and these guys could be all over the map, obviously, said that they thought Sony had sold 6 million units and that Microsoft had sold about half that. Sony, so the way Sony measures sales, Microsoft doesn't release their numbers, but the way that Microsoft used to do it was different. Like they used to count shipping into the channel. You know, Sony lists or records sales to consumers. However, I would say, given the constraints, those two numbers are going to be the same for now, right?
Well, no, I think you had that backwards. Okay. Sony said shipped in their consoles. So
they usually So they usually do measure sales to consumers.
Oh,
that's
do they?
Usually how they. I would just but my point is the same anyway. Shipped into the channel and shipped to consumers, I would say at this point are the same thing, right? It's not like these things are sitting on shelves somewhere and people are like,
right?
They're going to be sold.
Yeah. Everything Sony made. Of course, you could be right. I don't know. It's early. They said shipped.
Okay. Okay. I'm just saying normally. Yeah, that is what they measure, but whatever they said, it's fine. It doesn't matter. I would say for this particular quarter, who cares?
Everything they shipped, they sold, unless it was broken, literally.
Right.
The other number that they had too, which there is no direct comparable for, is 47.4 million PS subscribers, which would be equivalent to Xbox Live Gold, but we don't know.
And I would say and Game Pass, actually, right? So, like paid subscriptions. So
Hmm.
that's interesting. Microsoft sometimes, don't they sometimes break out gold? I thought every once in a
I
while
don't
maybe
think so.
okay. Well,
At least that they haven't
uh,
recently.
yeah. So Sony's number suggests that almost half or over half of the people, no, I guess it's almost half of the people who are on the PlayStation Network playing games are paying subscribers, which seems like a really good rate. There must be some benefit to it or something. I mean, I
Hmm.
know they have a thing that's like Games with Gold, where you get some free games every month. They're doing that, for example. In fact, I think Black Ops 3 is on that list this month. Um, yeah, I mean, I like the revenue figures are interesting. You said 8.5 billion.
It was over 8 billion, which was a record for them, the highest
Wow. Okay.
PlayStation
And five was
versus
a record for Xbox too.
yeah. So it's
But
like a three
that's not
billion
half. I
spread.
mean, that's 2/3 ish.
Yeah.
You know,
So I mean, both companies just sort of knocked it out of the park when it came to gaming stuff. So
interesting. Okay.
yeah. Also, interesting things is Jeff Bezos is going to go play with rockets and newspapers and no longer run the everything store. So
Right. I just forgot the guy's name, but we'll know things are going south at Amazon when Bezos has to pull and this is where I'm forgetting the guy's name, the guy who founded Gateway and then later had to come back to try, to be CEO
oh
long after he had.
yep.
Can't think of his name. Anywho, yeah. So he's being replaced with a nobody whose name nobody cares about and who is boring. But
I wouldn't say Andy is a nobody.
have you seen this guy?
He's he's like the
Satya
Satya Nadella of Amazon. He built AWS effectively.
Okay.
And
Yeah. All right. So that's interesting. So he's an engineer.
yeah, I mean he
Okay.
was in charge. He was on the marketing side, I thought, but he was leading AWS.
I'm just saying Bezos is like a James Bond villain, and this
Oh
other
yeah,
guy
well he's
is
the founder of the company. I mean, like
yeah. Well, no, he's not
Bezos,
just
like
the founder. He's
I mean,
he's right on the spectrum. I mean,
it's unconfirmed, but I believe Bezos like moonlights as the guy in Hitman, that game
yeah.
series.
No, I mean, he has a private island somewhere. He's got
Yeah,
a Cheshire cat. You know,
a little lava
you
in the
know?
background.
Yeah. A
So,
monocle.
that was kind of a bombshell, I guess. Like nobody really expected
Yeah,
that
it
to
came out of
come.
nowhere. Yeah.
But I mean, he's kind of like in that Bill Gates tradition, like, we're under antitrust. I should probably just like leave. Maybe I guess I don't know. Like,
That's a good point. Yeah, no, I mean, by the way, it is a fair thing to say, and this is an observation that was made, like you said, with Microsoft during their antitrust woes as Gates moved on. I mean, it's this kind of principle that when Apple's co-founder Steve Jobs was like this, some people are really good in that initial phase of expansion, leading a company, founding one, and then getting it, but they can't get out of that mindset, and sometimes the behavior that gets companies into trouble, antitrust wise, especially regulation wise, whatever, is not being able to move the mindset forward to match what the company has become. You know, so yeah, I mean, it's probably fair to say that some of Amazon's troubles are tied to the same qualities that Bezos had that made the company successful.
yeah, I mean, they've grown by killing other companies. I don't want to say it's like not inorganic growth, but they haven't like created anything net new for the industry that wouldn't put them in that spotlight. Right now they're looking at data like, oh, that guy sells shirts that are $5 a piece, we can do that for $2 and clean them up, and then they do that. And then
there's always going to be a dark underbelly to any company that is heavily logistics based, and so Amazon obviously because of the physical goods, but Apple also, only Tim Cook could have gone to China. I mean, the entire economy is based on this, like, where's the cheapest place to get stuff, and we've moved to a system where it's so expensive to build things in the United States. It actually makes sense to build them in Asia and then ship them at great expense to the United States and then ship them around the United States, like, and then not to mention the rest of the world, obviously. But yeah, that's the genius of Tim Cook, and it's the reason Apple has thrived, and succeeded. I mean, it's just a logistics thing, but there's always going to be human rights abuses on the other end of that, whether I mean, we've seen all the stuff about Amazon workers and all the terrible conditions. I mean, it's like a third world sweatshop in there in the United States. And then Apple, it literally is a third world sweatshop. But
they have a nice campus.
It's okay. Now they move the new stuff to Thailand and Vietnam. I'm sure those places will be much better than China. So
yeah. So that was sort of nobody really saw that coming. Usually there's
Nope.
sometimes like hints like,
Surprise.
he's thinking about it, but I mean, like he won. Like you won.
yeah.
Like there's nothing else to do. Like, once you get your first billion, like what's another?
Well, one. I mean, by the way, let's talk. One. Let's look. They won. Of course, they won by a wide margin.
Yeah.
What were their revenues this quarter, Brad? Where is this?
Over 100 billion.
126 billion.
Yeah.
We were just celebrating Apple. So Amazon's like, hold on a second.
Yeah.
I
he's
mean,
handed the glass of water to him, like, hold this. You might need this.
yeah. Listen, I will let the round of applause succeed, but when that's done, I just want to note, we made a little bit more.
Yeah. I mean,
It's incredible.
yeah. Like what else do you do? I mean, you won.
It is. It is such a unique thing. If you were to look at go back a year and a half or a year or whatever, and the top 10 companies in the world, right? 5 to 8 of them are going to be technology companies probably, and then there's still some. I'm sure there's oil companies in there somewhere or whatever, banks. I don't know. It is fascinating to me that these companies that were already on top of the world, the 4 or 5 of the top 5 companies in the world, right? Apple, Amazon, Microsoft, Google, and Facebook. Some is not quite up in that level, but had the best years ever in the worst year in the history of the planet Earth for humans.
Well, I think we might be able to argue Black Plague, maybe. Like,
okay, World War II. The time
there's been some bad ones, but
the planet and killed the dinosaurs. That was pretty bad.
Yeah.
I mean, but in the modern age,
yeah,
certainly post World War II.
Yeah.
And they are just skyrocketing. So these companies already had too much power. Already were on the regulation fast track with antitrust, and bam, they're like twice as big as they were like a year and a half ago. Not really, but I mean they're much bigger. I mean that's crazy.
The other sort of quasi interesting thing is there's only, of like the major tech firms that you just mentioned, there's only one founder left still running it, because Bill Gates is gone now. Bezos is gone.
Right.
The Google founders are gone.
Checked out, yeah.
The only one that's left is Zuckerberg.
Yeah, and I don't elevate Facebook into that same hallowed territory, but sure, obviously, unfortunately, because they certainly have power, they've subverted elections, Brad.
I was gonna say, if you can knock over a democracy, like I feel like,
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're right, but I mean, also probably the youngest of those companies, although Google isn't really that old.
I mean, Amazon isn't that old. Like
What is
90, mid 90s, something like that.
Who was that?
Amazon?
Yeah, Amazon is somewhat time of the 90s for sure.
I mean, Google's right around there too.
Google is late 90s probably, and Facebook is probably late 90s, early 2000s. But yeah, I mean, Microsoft and Apple have been around since the late 70s, mid to late 70s, so slightly different. But well, thank God for the Microsoft antitrust stuff from 20 years ago. It's really worked out great for everybody.
Yeah, they really nailed him on that browser. That's
It's like it's a movie. It's called The Gate. It's a terrible 80s horror movie, but one of the great set pieces in it is there's a demon thing chasing someone around a house, and it gets knocked down. When it hits the ground, a bunch of tiny demons go running around, and they're all identical, but they're smaller. And that's what Microsoft created. It's just a bunch of things just like it, but now they're all the same size. Or instead of one big idiot, we have 5 or whatever. It's good.
all right. The Ma Bell stuff worked out well too, right? Because we have so many.
Right. Well, at least the networks are all compatible.
Yeah, it's real easy just to move around phones, but anyways, so here we are back again. Couple founder exit, couple billion here or there, and yet our earnings still aren't in the billions, which is
Google's advertising figure was 81% of their Alphabet's 81% of Alphabet's revenues were from advertising.
Didn't they report their cloud too?
For the first time ever, yeah, and it lost money.
Yeah, how does that work?
I don't know why I don't know why they did it. Maybe it reached a number where they have to separate it or something. I have no idea. They're so weird. But yeah, it was the first time they ever separated it out, and it made good revenues, but it lost money every quarter and then all of last year. Yeah.
So this is where I struggle with things, Paul. So Microsoft has drilled into the world's head that software and like Azure has like really good margins, and then there's Google.
I know.
And AWS has proven that. I mean,
Yep.
Amazon wouldn't be what it is without those
On
margins.
AWS, wasn't it like 18? I think it was 18 billion, something like that. I mean, um,
I wonder if it was like CapEx expense, but usually like they would call that out really clearly. I don't know.
yeah, I don't know. I mean,
What if Azure is losing money and that's why Microsoft never separates it out?
there you go. I mean, so who knows? I mean, in the expansion phase for this stuff, that has to be very expensive because then you are literally buying physical things, you know, and keep running.
And $1 billion a pop, effectively, if not more.
Yeah, but Google, it'd be based on their numbers. I'm trying to figure this out. I mean, Google Cloud has almost doubled, not quite, but it's every year, you know, revenue wise. I mean, last year it was a 13-something billion dollar business. I mean, they're number 3. Let's just put it that way. By size, right? I mean, but I think it's a kind of a distant number 3, I would say.
Yeah, where's IBM? They came to keep talking about their cloud and
their cloud
and their blockchain. I don't know if you saw the headline or whatever. It's like IBM, which was the probably largest promoter of blockchain because they needed something. Like their blockchain org is down to like 5 people or something. Like it's been completely gutted because whoever would have thought a massively distributed, slow updating network would be good for business.
IBM could have had a comeback off of GameStop.
They probably
Change AMC or whatever.
Yeah, GameStop has had a nice little roller coaster. It's back down into the 90s, so there's a bunch of people who lost a whole bunch of money and a bunch of people who made some money.
I think it's, you know, it's fun that this company can survive. It's like when a mob kills somebody and they hoist the body and they throw it around the crowd. That's GameStop today. It's just being tossed around.
Wow.
It's dead. Yep.
On that dramatic exit, today's podcast was brought to you by Security Unlocked. You can find links down in the description below or go directly to the site securityunlockedpodcast.com or just click the link because it's easier and it's convenient and I put it there.